I can't remember a single thing from that Birdie album from earlier this year, but man, is Raincatcher such a good song. Oh, hi there. Welcome to the musical show where I ramble on about music because it's in the title. Let's just get straight into it. No waiting, no bullshit. Ken Carson, A Great Chaos, re-review, yeah. In a week of yet another release from the prolific Opium label, I decided to return to the Ken Carson album that I'd only released weeks before. And despite some flaws that are very in your face, I kinda love it, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's super fun, the beats are downright insane, which you won't believe from listening to the end on X. That song's ass. And his delivery, even if his enunciation's kind of awful, is super fun, especially on Singapore. Also, so many fun tracks and fantastic moments, such as Fighting My Demons, which is such a well-rounded rage track, beat-wise, and the ending is the best moment of Ken's whole career. Well, technically the Cole Bennett video, that's like his he made it moment. It's also a fucking insane video. Jennifer's Body has one of the best rap beats I've heard all year. Green Room does everything right and is such a fantastic opener, and there's many I haven't even mentioned. Rockstar Lifestyle had a phenomenal beat, as do both Nightcore tracks. So, yeah, there is a lot to love about this album. It is fun as shit. But I would be lying if I said it wasn't with its flaws. For one, there were multiple terrible bars and really cringe moments, and Lose It, while kind of hard, really could have been omitted, and the production choice really wasn't for me. Like this, while respectable, was pretty bland beat-wise, and Uzi really wasn't great. Paranoid was super bland and probably Ken's weaker performance on the album, so that was also kind of a dud. But that aside, Rage Perfection, the best to come out of its genre since Snot or Not, and probably the second best one that there is behind Snot or Not. 8.4 out of 10. 1, 2, 3, shit, I wrote a lot. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 albums came out this week that I listened to. So let's start off with James Blunt with Who He Used to Be, which is awful. From the standard horrendous and hard to listen to vocals from the guy to the insanely basic instrumentals, this thing from front to back was pretty hard to listen to. And his accent's also just great, and I don't know why, but it is. This album is pretty terrible throughout. I've made that quite clear, but I want to primarily talk about Some Kind of Beautiful, which is painfully awful from front to back. The vocals suck, the instrumentals, basic of the chorus, was hard to listen to, and aside from the song with the worst vocal performance on the album, that being Beside You, which was horrendous vocally, it never reached that level of awful, as bad as this album is. And Dark Thought is kind of beautiful. Shame how to come from such awful circumstances, but I can't do his vocals at all. And the basic instrumentals didn't do much for me either. Not for me. 1.7 out of 10. Next up is DJ Shadow's Action Adventure, from the maker of Introducing. Quite hard to explain, as it doesn't match the perceived quality of that album at all. It's pretty clear it just makes music for the hell of it. It doesn't put an effort into making a statement, or anything at all really, which, while cute and fair enough, you do you, it creates some bland stuff. This album not only sounds cheap, but is insanely basic, and while there are experiments at times, they are hit or miss. I didn't like the track An Hour Escape for All, for example. It did nothing for me. But while I do have a lot of gripes with this thing, it's not the worst thing I've ever heard, and I can tolerate a good chunk. And there are some good ideas here and there, such as Time and Space. Time and Space was pretty enjoyable. But yeah, overall, far from being great, as there are bland and awful songs, but just far from terrible, has some cool ideas on it as well. Still, the bad outweighs the good. 4.1 out of 10. Moving on to Rema with Ravage. I believe Rema has potential to make great Afrobeats, and his sound, if expanded on, could be great, and he's already got success in the bag, but this was not the best showing of potential. Troublemaker was one of the most boring tracks I've ever heard in my life, as it was such a nothing burger. DND had a better instrumental though, and was probably the best in the EP, as really, he can make solid music with slightly better instrumentals, it's that simple, and he did there. Smooth Criminal easily has the best instrumental on the album, but everything else would make MJ turn in his grave, as it fucking sucks. Also seems not to be trying on Don't Leave. The chorus on those both tracks were hilariously offbeat, and it was awful. Red Potion was a decent all-round track though, so hey, I did well enough. But yeah, the overall thoughts are lowered significantly due to the tracks in the middle, and it's really not great. 4.6 out of 10. Next up is Merlin Wood and Amir, two former members of Brockhampton, with Slam the Ice Machine. So the outcasted knob and the weirdo of Brockhampton created a collab album, and it was as mid as the stuff they dropped before the breakup. Probably more so The Family, as TM was pretty fun. For a start, the mixing was plain awful, especially on songs like Hit, and other bad tracks were dotted around. Amongst this, it was basic and bland from start to finish, with other examples including Love is a Scandal. Rapping-wise, they were okay, but Merlin's energy did get a bit overbearing. It's not exactly a saturation album where it shines, and it's not really as bombastic as they think it is, but it's not without its highlights. On Everything is a really fun track, and it's probably the only one where they mastered the vibe they tried to make for the whole goddamn album. And Spark Check had a beautiful beat that sounded nothing like the rest of the album. Also for the better though, so hey, can't complain too much. But this thing is a bit of a faceplant overall. It was too ambitious for its own good, and overall didn't have the desired impact for its listeners. 5.1 out of 10. Moving on to King Geezy and the Leedy Weedy with the Silver Chord. After their metal album a few months back, they've probably created the left turn to end all left turns if Radiohead didn't do that 23 years ago. Or was it 22? Did it come out in 2000 or 2001? It came out in 2000. They've decided to come back for their second and presumably final album of the year with an electronic and poppy style. I like that almost to like Daft Punk, but without the samples and sometimes straight up steals and the charm. Sure, the vocals that contrasted the instrumentals were cool and it was definitely interesting, but they can't be consistently good forever, and this was pretty mid. A lot of the instrumentals were basic as shit, and the rapping, there was rapping, was corny as fuck and didn't suit the instrumentals all that much. The title track sucks ass, The Silver Chord, and whilst it transitions from Opener Thea super well, and that song is a banger and the best on the album with a fantastic instrumental, the vocal distortions are just painful to listen to, as most of the instrumental does try to salvage the song somewhat towards the end. Most of the album, though, is in the middle of those two songs. Thea is the highest high, and The Silver Chord is the lowest low. Everything else seems to just be heavily flawed to fuck, but not terrible, and I think The Closer Extinction is a perfect example. It has its positives, has quite a few, but is pretty meh overall, has a lot of flaws, and it kind of sums up the whole album. It's mid overall, but the instrumentals do have their moments, and the vocals are cool too, at times, but it can be corny at times, it can just come off as just not quite there, do you get me? And a bit cringy. So, yeah, pretty hit or miss for me. 5.7 out of 10. Never use those vocal distortions again. Hey, that rhymes. Moving on to Poppy with Zig. Seems to be one of those, to put it simply. What those means in this context is basically an album trying to be cool and edgy and interesting, but being basic in that department and doing what everyone else does. I tried to say that too fast. Whoops. Poppy has always been a unique personality, both as an artist and as a person. If we had a childhood, we watched her on the Fine Brothers and we're terrified. Or at least I was. And fuck the Fine Brothers. Well, I didn't know, I was 6. And there were parts of here that did have that weirdness that has always been Poppy's thing and has always been kind of great, especially on the music side. She's made some good stuff. Hard was a banger. And there were some incredible songs such as Ones and Zeros that I also want to shout out, but so much of this album, even some of the bangers such as Open a Church Outfit, felt a bit bland despite the vibe they were going for, not being that bland notoriously. I mean, it's bland now, because everyone else is doing it. Like, reminds me a bit of the Holly Humberstone album the other week. The title track Zig and Motorbike are examples of this, and I know Zig's an example of what I just said, and Motorbike is just an in-your-face bland song, and terrible. So yeah, this album has its highlights, and Poppy does show the quality she does have in her locker musically, but this thing was inconsistent and had a lot of slop. 6 out of 10. Moving on to Destin Conrad with Submissive. I'll probably fly through this one because the album's short and it leaves no impression. Benefits from how short it is, to be honest. It's super samey, uninteresting, and has some really boring duds such as Low Tide. But with it being short, there were enough solid cuts to make this album, well, solid. The track with Jordan Ward, One Thing, was pretty good instrumentally. Open a Mariposa was just great all round and easily the best on the album, transitioning into Off That Shit freestyle really well, which was also a solid cut, even if the lyricism did bring it down a little bit, which was to be expected, but a bit of a bummer. So, yeah, this thing is solid. It has its highs, but it's super uninteresting at times, and it has a fair few duds. 6.1 out of 10. Next up is Brent Faiyaz with Larger Than Life. This album is not aptly titled, as in reality, it's lifeless R&B that I've heard from about a zillion different artists. Brent has really yet to capture my attention for anything other than being painfully kind of mid in some ways, and that hasn't changed. Sure, I'd be lying if I said there weren't bangers such as like Where You At or Forever Yours, and this thing does spawn some incredibly fine instrumentals. I'm not going to act like it's all bad. I'm not going to act like this wasn't solid, because it was. And I'm not saying there is no showcase of potential to be seen at all or anything, but, you know, could have been more. It was there, but not enough to make a great album, which I know he can. He just hasn't really been on my radar. I haven't listened to Wasteland from last year, which people seem to really like. But, yeah. It's one of those R&B albums, this one, going for a summery vibe that is nothing special with obnoxious vocals at times. I cannot with R&B vocal runs. They're super obnoxious. I don't want to hear you going over the most bland drums that you've ever heard in your life, because you're lucky to even get any other instrumentals apart from drums. The features in general seem to just exist. I'd be lying if A$AP Rocky did anything on Outside All Night, which was such a boring song. But Babyface Ray didn't ruin Belong to You, so hey, you can take that away. Usually ruins everything he touches. I have to take what I can get with him. Also want to say that Wherever I Go sucks, and Big Mad Skit is one of the worst interludes all year. Other one's nice and pretty relaxing though. But yeah, this thing is a bore overall. It has highlights, but it does nothing for me. It just exists, I guess. 6.3 out of 10. Next up is Maria the Scientist, who I'm pretty sure is Young Thug's girlfriend, To Be Eaten Alive. This, for once in R&B, was super enjoyable. Oh wait, I just realised this is 3 R&B albums in a row. Was super enjoyable. I know my rating doesn't suggest that, but I enjoyed this album quite a bit, especially at its peak. The production was really nice from front to back, and Maria's vocals weren't super annoying like every other R&B artist at the moment coming up. Feature-wise, they all did great apart from 21 Savage, but even he was decent enough on his track, 40 Days and 40 Nights. And I might as well also take this opportunity to say that the tracks with trap production were pretty much all solid. In fact, Ride, which is the track with Thugger, who I'm pretty sure is her partner, might be my favourite on the album. It's the best I've heard Thugger since the song with Yeet from earlier this year. That song's such a banger, by the way. But, yeah, it is basic. Sometimes mind-numbingly basic. Good Times comes straight into my mind. And for that reason, it doesn't peak super high, despite its enjoyability being pretty high. It's one of those that's like consistently good, but nothing really more than that overall. And yeah, it's fun and enjoyable, but far from anything special. 6.5 out of 10 though. It was fun. Okay, moving on to Taylor Swift with 1989 Taylor Vision, which has actually gotten what I think is unneeded and unnecessary flack that Speak Now really should have got, because Speak Now was ruined. Enchanted fucking sucks, and I will stand by that. And Sparks Fly is also kind of awful as well. But this, I don't want to dwell on the tracks that are already released, because for one, they're the same tracks, and for two, like, as much as there are changes, they don't sound bad. Like, Blank Space, the mixing technically isn't great, but like it doesn't annoy me at all, I'll be completely honest. New Romantics maybe was a bit too bombastic, and there were some unnecessary synths in some of the choruses, but I think a lot of them sounded good. And the vocals in New Romantics, the song I just mentioned, were too quiet, so I do want to say that. And she was 26 when she made the album. She's 35 now, so the vocals won't suit some songs. Because some songs, you just have to be young to sound good on. If Willie Nelson covered Endgame, it'd suck. With all due respect to Willie Nelson, because he's an amazing person, but come on. And style, let's be honest, style sucks. It doesn't suck, but in comparison to the OG, it sucks. Like, come on. It's so much worse. The loud synths made the song, and Jack Antonoff's more mellow production, well, it was more the guitar actually, and the synths sort of like going together. That's what made the song. In this version, it's just the synths, and it just sounds so much worse. Looking at the positives though, her Her improved vocals improved some songs by being better on, say, Wonderland and Out of the Woods. I Know Places is 10 times better. I'm not gonna like be aggressively mean about the OG. Actually, no, yeah, I am. It's kind of mid. So yeah, but I'm moving on to the Vault because I don't want to dwell on that for any longer. It took me 6 minutes to review Speak Now. I'm not doing that again. Slut was a love song which no one expected, but hey, the instrumental was fucking insane. Felt very lover to me. The vocal tracks in general weren't screaming 1989. As for Say Don't Go, it starts mellow and midnighty and kind of boring because it's midnighty, and then the bombastic chorus pops up and it just makes so much more sense and is overall a great song and probably the most 1989 there is there. The same can't be said for Now That We Don't Talk, which is an annoying and generic garbage heap that reminds me of Midnight Rain in the worst way possible. The bridge wasn't too bad, but that aside, yeah. Suburban Legends is boring as shit though and goes from TikTok on the clock to Broke My Own Heart, yip yap yap, in just 2 lines lyrically, and it just sounds so weird. But hey, Is It Over Now exists, and Is It Over Now is fucking insane. Rest in peace, Harry Styles. Yeah. Overall, 1989 has done what it's always done, and it's basically the exact same in terms of pros and cons. Has high highs but is generic, and The Vault has its moments but really isn't the best. And a lot of them sound like Midnight rejects, and that album's already pretty just eh. But hey, this album is pretty much on the same level as the OG. I'm not going to act like it's not. I'm not going to act like Fantano with the whole letdown thing, because I just don't think it is one. The Vault overall is a 6, and the normal album plus deluxe is a 7.7, which compared to the OG, it's the exact same rating. Maybe it's like a 7.6 or something if I'm being picky with like 1 or 2 of the remix, but I'm not going to. Overall, though, as an album, it's a 7.4 out of 10. Moving on to Domogenesis and Grey Matter with What You Don't Get, which may not be the most unique or memorable thing to ever be made, but it's well made. The production was very well done, and it did the basics correctly from front to back, and the beats were mostly really nice and had cool sampling. The album is also very cohesive and has some fantastic tracks such as To Be Continued / Taking My Time, which had a phenomenal beat at the end that I'd like to mention in specific for being phenomenal. So, yay, well done. However, it is basic and forgettable in places. Domo is hardly touching on new areas or anything. One of those that is great and fun to listen to when it's on, but outside of that, there's little reason to return to it, and it has its duds. Details was pretty mid and uninteresting, and around the middle mark, literally nothing came to memory apart from 1 or 2 moments in 1 or 2 beats. So, yeah. Overall, this thing is great, but it won't stick in the memory too long as having being cool when it was on. 7.6 out of 10. And at the top, as much as Benno is a horrendous person, it's Homicide Gang with Fifth Amendment. I do feel guilt for enjoying these guys because of the allegations, but musically they are too consistent. I can't say that they're not when they are. They have the best sound easily in Opium Rage-wise, and they've continued with it, and it sounds just as good. So, hey, B5 and Road Rage are super good, and have quite frankly incredible beats. And they also experiment with more mellow sounds, which don't really work, but they tried. Sort of like What It is cool for being a Homicide Gang song on a Pierre beat, but that aside just isn't great. Among this, the mixing wasn't always the best, which didn't support the rushed arguments I had before the tape released and my worries for it musically. And it definitely affected Benno the most. In some songs, such as Guns and Soho, he sounded straight up awful, but gave me a reason to hate on him. He was definitely the worst part of the album, which gives me a bit of closure. But, yeah. There were also some songs that were boring duds that didn't do anything to note at all, such as Home Invasion, and yeah, this thing is fire overall. It has multiple bangers, and while there are glaring flaws and duds, separating the art from the artist does create a pretty great experience. And come on, Opium is Opium. You can't just ignore these guys. 7.6 out of 10. One of them things. A quieter week in terms of anything major drop, and the major thing dropped yesterday with the whole Beatles last song, which is kind of awful, I'll be completely honest, but what can you do? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. albums dropped. And I'm gonna not listen to two of them, I think it is. Starting off is Seth MacFarlane with We Wish You the Merriest, a Seth MacFarlane, guy from Family Guy, Christmas album, because that's what we needed. It's a collab album with Liz Gillies. I presume she's his partner, I guess, but it's just a bunch of Christmas covers. 13 songs, 39 minutes. Why listen to it? Just why? There's no point. Jockstrap with a remix album of I Love You Jennifer B, which is I Love You QTINVU. Jockstrap and Taylor Sky collab album, which features Baby Morocco, Kobe Say, Earzacts, Ian Starr, Kieran J. Kalman, and yeah, 9 songs, 31 minutes long. I don't do remix albums, but if you do remix albums, listen to this Jockstrap album today. It's based off I Love You Jennifer B from last year, which is a great album. I have it as an 8.8 or something. And I might as well take this to plug my album of the year. I review albums from all years. I review albums before I drop the show, so you can see all my ratings before the show comes out, if you want to do that. Yeah, it'll be on screen if I remember to put it on screen. It'll be in the description below if I remember to put it in the description. But if you go on album of the year, search Jared B, I'll come up. Starting off with, out of the 10 albums, I think it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah. Starting off, the 10 albums I am going to listen to is the one I've already listened to, Kevin Abstract from Brockhampton with Blanket. Brockhampton boys had a prolific 2 weeks. Kevin Abstract, the guy who basically did the whole of the family, and it was a bit of a sad goodbye, which is why TM exists. But yeah, 13 songs, 37 minutes. Is it good? Is it bad? Find out next week. No features. Next up, T Grizzly with T's Coney Islands, which features 21 Savage, because everything does. Chris Brown, Machine Gun Kelly, Finesse 2 times. Chris Brown again, Maria the Scientist, Corday, City Girls, and Skilla Baby. I've already heard that song. That song's fucking garbage. 16 songs, 45 minutes long, 4. Jeezy with I Might Forgive, but I Don't Forget, a double album, which has no features. No, none. 29 fucking songs. 29 and no features. That's insane. 1 hour, 26 minutes. It's going to be a 4. There's no way that'll come good. Marshmello. There's no way this will come good either, because Marshmello sucks. With Sugar Papi, which features Young Maiko, Lil Cake, Bray, Manuel Turizo, Tiago Pizarque, Anuel AA, Faruko, Belima Wesco, Nicky Jam, Choquib Town, Luisa Sonsa, and Fuerza Regida. 11 songs, 30 minutes long, 2. Yeah, Marshmello just produces for randos now, to put under his name. He produces for the semi-famous artists that are fucking awful, though, unfortunately. So, yeah, he fell off from when we were kids and didn't know what good music sounds like. He's always been shit. Zoe Wees with Therapy, which features Black, spelled 6 like. 20 songs, 59 minutes, 5. The Alchemist with Flying High Part 2, which is yet another 5-track EP under that name, the one he dropped earlier this year. This is a sequel. I have no idea why it has a sequel, but there you are. It features Conway the Machine, Action Bronson, Gangrene, and Currency. 5 songs, 7. Spiritbox with The Fear of Fear, which is called an album on Album of the Year, but an EP on Spotify, and it's 6 songs of 25 minutes in length. 8. I really like Spiritbox. Penelope Scott, third EP we're going to mention, Girls' Night. People know her for being shit, so she's probably still shit. 6 songs, 22 minutes, 3. The late Jimmy Buffett with what's technically a posthumous album, Equal Strain on All Parts, which features Preservation Hall Jazz Band, Angelique Kidjo, Will Kimbrough, Letty Gallen, and Emmylou Harris. 14 songs, 53 minutes long. Rest in peace, Jimmy Buffett, but I don't think I'll like this very much. Especially considering there's a song called Fish Porn. This will probably be like a 3 or a 2. I don't want it to be a 3 or a 2, but I don't think I'll like it at all. I want this to be a 0. Jason Aldean with Highway Desperado, with Try That in a Small Town, which is infamously racist and terrible. 14 songs, 46 minutes long, one. I cannot wait to shit on this to fuck. But I can't wait to listen to it. But hey, at least it's not like Morgan Wallen, they're too fucking long. I'm listening to 11. I may or may not have forgot one. I've also got to do the top 3 and bottom 3. I'll do that later on. And if I don't, I'll just put like 1, 2, 3. I'll list the albums. I'll probably even forget to put the covers. And if I do that, I'm sorry about that in advance. Jungkook, yeah, with Golden, which features Jack Harlow, Major Lazer, Latto, DJ Snake, and yeah, why the hell's the J. Cole song not here? 11 songs, probably like 29, 30 minutes long. It's probably going to be like a 5. Yeah. I forgot Van Morrison with, this album title's like really corny. Accentuate the Positive. It's one way to put it, I suppose. 19 songs, an hour and a minute. It's probably going to be like a 4, to be honest. Maybe a 3. But, hey, it might be good. But yeah, thanks for watching. For real this time. See you next week. Oh yeah, top 3 and bottom 3. My face is very thingy, so yeah, whoops. Top 3 best. At number 3 is Zell, somehow, with Pastel, which is an 8.3. Yeah, 8.3 out of 10. Number 2 is Ken Carson with The Great Chaos, which is an 8.6 out of 10. But number 1, by a fucking mile, is Sufjan Stevens with Javelin, which is an 8.9. Bottom 3 all have the same rating. I've only recently realised, how am I going to order this, though? That is the question. Oh, wait, no, they don't. And number 3 is Roger Waters, The Redux of The Dark Side of the Moon, which is a 1.1. And number 2 is Pitbull with Trackhouse, which is a 1.1. And 1 on the dot is One More Time by Blink-182. It's a lot of ones. All right, bye.